Well, President-elect Trump riding a tidal wave of global populism straight to the White House. The movement, some think the roots go back to the current Eurocentric movement, which was anti-refugee, and it really, in Europe now, I can tell you, it's edging away from the fringes to the mainstream, and it actually has some people worried, but the question is, should we be? I want to talk now to Steve Hilton, former senior advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron, and Fox News military analyst Chuck Nash. Steve, let me start with you. This populism, it's certainly become a tidal wave. It's been in place now for several years, and some people are concerned. What do you make of that?
I think the roots of it are actually economic. And I think you saw a little bit of it actually in the statement that Bernie Sanders put out, because what you've got going on, I think, over the past few decades is a build-up of resentment against the ruling class in politics, in government, in business, in finance, and this sense that, and this is literally true, by the way, it's not a slogan, that the rich have got richer while the poor and middle earners have literally got poorer, and people feel that and they resent it. And that's what actually unites what's going on in Europe with Brexit, what's going on with the Trump movement and the Bernie Sanders movement. So I thought it was really interesting that Bernie Sanders felt able to pick on so many of the themes that Trump put forward in his campaign and to say, right, well, if you're serious about it, we can work together. So I think the heart of the populist movement is actually economics. You
know, Captain Nash, there's no doubt about the economic pain, particularly with the middle class, but some are saying that, hey, you know, why does this happen now? You have the elites, but also policies, immigration policies, whether it was the know-nothings here or more recently, you know, Le Pen in France, Geert Wilders, who is now in trouble in Finland. I know they moderate these parties and they make them more mainstream, but what I'm saying is I think, you know, empowering the middle class is a fantastic thing, but those who are warning us about negative consequences, how off base are they?
Well, I don't think they're off base too much, Charles, because when it cuts right down to the chase, human beings are tribal by nature, and the nation state was a way of pulling multiple tribes together and solving that disunity problem or that diversity problem by unifying and finding that common thing that bound them together. And when you have governments that are supposed to work for the people suddenly start dictating to the people and the people feel helpless, then you add into that this celebration of diversity instead of the unifying factors, and that is what's going to cause trouble, because people, as turned out with President-elect Trump, they're not going to put up with it, and at some point they're going to stand up. So whether it's Brexit, whether it's the Trump phenomena, or whatever happens with countries in Europe, same thing's going to occur.
Speaking of tribalism, guys, I want to show the audience we've got protests going on in a few cities, including Chicago and New York. These are people who are not happy with the outcome. You can see that's in Chicago, Trump Tower. We have a very similar protest going on in New York City and Columbus Circle. It's always somewhat messy. So Steve, where do we go from here then? Populism is the way I would suspect in Europe. We may even see even greater, you know, a greater movement, particularly with Brexit and now Donald Trump.
I think that on the question of immigration, it brings to mind something that I remember Margaret Thatcher saying in the UK when I was growing up there as a boy, and she always used to say that the best way of guaranteeing good community relations and race relations is to have strong controls on immigration and managing immigration so that you can make sure that different communities are not affected disproportionately. And I think that is something that people are really looking to see happen here in the US. So going forward, I think that if Trump actually delivers on his pro-growth, pro-jobs economic plan and manages a sensible control of immigration, then that will go such a long way towards satisfying the kind of anger that people have felt that has led to this incredible result here. And I think there's all indication that he will do that, particularly now that he's got a unified Republican Congress to actually implement the legislation that will make that happen.
Well, think about that, guys. The most powerful countries in the last 100 or so years, maybe 150 years now, having to prove to their people and the rest of the world that they can still do it. It's a great time in the world. Thank you both very much.